Hello, everyone. We're here today with our STN podcast. We've got somebody very special with us who I met just recently. Aurora Stuski is running for Congressional District 4, and she is running a campaign that started a little late, so she's got a lot of things to do right now, including be a mom. We talked a little bit about your grandson too, Aurora, and I want to touch on that. And also, she's working a full-time job as she does all this. So she's a busy gal, and I'd like to give her a chance to give you a little insight into her background. I know she has worked on congressional campaigns with others. She's got an extensive background in the political world. And she's also got a business of her own, and she is a busy individual with that business as well. So, Aurora, I'm going to give you the floor, and then we'll go back and forth a little bit on a few questions that I'm sure others will have.
Sure. I guess I'll start with my background. I grew up in Philadelphia, moved to Montgomery County, been a Montgomery County resident for, oh my goodness, probably 37, 38 years now. Raised three wonderful children here. I have a son and two daughters, all of which I'm extremely proud of. As a mother, this is one of the things that brought me back into the political fold, especially during the COVID lockdowns and what they were teaching children. I found out what they were teaching my daughter in school, which of course I didn't agree with, which brought me into working with groups like No Left Turn in Education, Parents for In-Person Education, and that led to me becoming more involved. One election when I walked up to my polling location and there was no one there to greet folks. So I got a little upset and called my local county and asked why there was no one here, as I watched our Democrat counterparts on the other side, 10 of them over there having a party, and we didn't have anybody. And I was a little upset. I gave them a little bit of an earful, but needless to say, I wound up taking off work that day, standing outside working my poll, which led to me becoming a write-in committee person, then the vice chair of the West Narton Republican Committee the following year, the chair of the West Narton Republican Committee, vice chair of Area 8, also the correspondence secretary of Area 8 Republican Committee, which is Norristown, East Narton, and West Narton in Montgomery County. Have run for Montgomery County Commissioner. I'm good friends with Tom DeBello. Didn't get
we will have on, I'm sorry to interrupt, we will have him on very shortly after you.
Fantastic. So Tom and I, we were running as a team initially. I didn't get the endorsement. He did. So stepped back, supported him. And by the way, he won every single one of my West Narton precincts.
Girl.
So good friend of mine, love him dearly. Ran for West Narton Commissioner the last go around in a pretty blue area. Well, we're purple, but we have a little bit of a problem with turnouts in our Republican group, and that's one of the things that we're working on building. But goodness, then I ran for. I'm thinking I do have a lot longer of a history than I realized. So I was one of the elected delegates for CD4 last go around. So I got to go to our Republican National Convention, carry the votes. I flew out the day after our president was shot, which was a very emotional time. One of my greatest honors was to be out at that convention. It was a fantastic experience. Really brought a lot of different people with different views in our party together. That was wonderful. Growing up, I've worked on Charlie Doherty campaign when I was very, very young. My family was very much into politics. I didn't care for it at all until I got older and I see what effect it has and how important it was. So that's what got me to step up. And this go around, I'm running against Madeleine Dean because, our party and our values need to be represented. Mm-hmm. And I feel I can beat her.
Good for you. Good for you. You also have a degree from a local university,
yes.
Actually a major and a minor.
Yeah, so Arcadia, I was a Bachelor of Fine Arts minor, and I had a degree in metalsmithing and painting and a business administration degree because my mom said I couldn't just be a starving artist, and she was very smart.
Absolutely.
And then after I graduated there, I went to California. I got my degree, a graduate gemology degree. That was 1989. I founded my own business. I've worked for pretty much every jewelry store chain that there is in the area, from Bailey Banks and Biddle, which no longer exists, to multiple chains. But I was hired by my own business. I have AAS Appraisal Lab. So I primarily do appraisal and for insurance and estate values. Also do liquidation, which means I help people sell their items when they need to. Obviously everybody does eBay, have my eBay auction, but I'm also hired out as an independent contractor. So I can go to various jewelry stores and I'm on staff there as well.
Well, you flip hats quite frequently to the
I am very, yeah. So I know a lot of people that come into this political realm are these are lifelong politicians or they're retired folks. I'm neither. So I burn at both ends and in the middle. That candle is just on 24/7. So,
well, that's great. And that's the way you're going to get there. So, we've talked about a number of different things. Your impetus really began in the political world, I would say, when you saw what was occurring with COVID, as did many of us. We were awakened by that. That's why I started this nonprofit, and it really shook us, and we're still seeing the effects of that to this day. But that, I know, was part of your reasoning with becoming more active and more engaged in politics. But at this point, we are in a very, I'm going to say, tempestuous position because of the people that are running.
mhm.
You made a comment earlier about how there was nobody set up at the polling place. And, there's I don't even want to call it apathy. I'm going to call it it's almost like people are just disengaged on our side. I don't know whether it's because they're frustrated, they're tired, they don't see what they want to see, but the engagement level is just not there. And you have just touched on the importance of that engagement. Not just getting out to vote, but supporting individuals like yourself. Comment on what you're seeing out there and how we can really motivate individuals on our side to understand how important it is to become engaged, in spite of the fact that some of them feel that their vote doesn't count or they can't make a difference.
Well, I worked also in election integrity. Obviously, it was one of the things when I became involved that brought me in, and I did see firsthand. And anybody who doesn't think there aren't shenanigans is completely wrong. I've seen them. I've testified. I've filled out affidavits, and I can understand where people would say, "Why bother?" But I think there's a very different dynamic between us and the liberal counterparts, because there's what I call old school Democrats that are still have some common sense. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. And there's this huge dynamic and push of socialism/communism actually. So if that is what we need to truly get across to our base, we need to keep fighting. And that means, even if that means just you showing up at the polls and voting for people who's standing up for our values, they are pushing this agenda. Just look at, Mandami and other folks who they're running. And the Democratic Party of old is really falling by the wayside and getting lost. And I do see that. I see that when I speak to Democrats. I see that when whether they vote a lot or, even the hard Democrats. I think the extreme leftists are seeing this with the push of these massive data centers. That what they feel their party stood up for them and would fight for them, constantly, are not. And I think there's a huge break in the party on the Democrat side. I think they have just as much apathy as what you're saying our side does. I do feel that they're not as engaged. And I feel that this is an opportunity for us to get more people across the line if we can energize our base. And by doing that, we need to tell them, honestly, door knocking is one of the best things. I've door knocked thousands of doors in my lifetime, and it truly has the best interaction when you are one-on-one with that person. You can make a difference. And it doesn't matter, like people say, oh, somebody doesn't like the president, or you know what? This is not the election. There's no president up. What matters now are these other offices. And this matters most in our neighborhoods and our areas, as what can change and what we need to do for actually the people. There's a lot of politicians that get in there and they're like, oh, on hot button issues. I think my opponent is just pushing the condition of ICE facilities right now. That's her main focus. But there's so much more in Congressional District 4. And I've gone around, been going to the different meetings, like out in Muhlenberg. They're very much affected by the regulations around. They've got 2 different watershed regulations that they're dealing with, but they're in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And they're in a position now where they're going to have to create a water tax because of the amount that it's costing them to maintain. And these are things from a federal level where if they're funded properly, because a lot of times we do fund and it gets to the state and we've got a governor who decides where everything goes. And I think he thinks paying for his social image is more important right now than anything else. He's in the midst of a campaign. And by the way, Stacey just gained a few points on him. So I think things are going our way, but I do think that as a group, we don't, I was one of them, right? And, you don't fight back until you really see what's happening around you and what you have to do. I mean, I've got children and I've got grandchildren, and I could have been doing more younger when I was younger. I should have been. And I think that's one of the main things we need to address as a party, is getting our young people more involved and showing them what difference it does make in their lives down the road with home ownership, taxes, affordability, and Charlie Kirk was an amazing person who really woke up our youth and was doing fantastic work. When you get a chance with Tom, Kim and I, his assistant, we're trying to get a Turning Point Monco hub off the ground here. But, we work with individuals. I help Gino Falco, another great young man with Right Side Rising, who, by the way, you should probably have him on. And I think working together and helping each other out will also help build momentum and cohesiveness in our party and our voters.
Absolutely. And, I met Gino recently, and to have a young man, 14 years old, I believe, to be as dynamic and engaged as he is an inspiration for all of us, really. But, I think that the key for us right now is to recognize the importance of what's occurring. You mentioned the DNC's, now DNS, Democratic National Socialist Agenda. I don't call it socialism because I call it what it is. It is not socialism. It is communism. There's no question about it. And the distinctions between the two of us, as far as our belief systems and what we espouse, is dramatic, and it's significant. We have an opportunity to maintain what our founders started here in this great country, this great republic. And, it's being torn apart every day by the rhetoric from the other side. So, engaging with someone like yourself and pushing forward so that we can be represented more with more voices. We have many who are in Congress or in positions on a state level. They're really targeted right now by the opposition. They're pouring a lot of money in. And I really think that we have to be strong enough to engage and support individuals like you, Aurora, and others. But if you could just take a moment and distinguish yourself from your opponent and give an idea what you really want to accomplish when you get to Washington.
Well, affordability, there's anybody who knows, it's important for young people to be able to buy and own houses. We're not going to be able to build communities or neighborhoods. People, first-time home buyers, I think, are in their 40s or in late 40s, or by the time they're able to afford homes. And there's legislation, there's things out there where we've done it before to fund this. And this is one of the most important things that I think is going to build communities. Because if people don't own things and they don't have something to look forward to and that pride of ownership, we're not going to be able to build communities and keep our young people in Pennsylvania. That's a primary, one of the biggest things. Obviously, healthcare costs. It will be great to help be part of a solution for that. I know Marty Young is another congressional candidate who I've been campaigning with along the road. He's got a great plan set forth based on the military program now. Our electric and water bills have already gone up tremendously because of the explosion in the data centers, especially down in Virginia. I do think we need guardrails. We're way behind the ball, as we always are with AI, with this, large scale data center production. I do think that eventually Elon Musk, if not already, is going to blow these out of the water. And SpaceX is working on putting them in space.
Yes.
Which is honestly where they probably should belong. So I think we've got a bunch of developers who want to spend money and ruin neighborhoods. They're trying to get ahead of something where it's a bet for them. To think that they're going to make money, and that's why there's this huge explosion going on. And I appreciate the fact that red tape has been cut on the government level, and I do believe in a smaller government and letting, not having all those federal regulations. But I think certain times it would probably be good to have a few safety nets in place. And children are honestly, obviously, one of my biggest. There's something I'm working on, a youth support network that can work with overlaying in existing programs and different things at a county level that are already set up. And the problem is we have a lot of different groups and a lot of great programs, but they don't work well together, and they don't work well. They're all independent. And I have an overlay program that I've been working on. I think I'm pretty sure my campaign manager has it on the website. And I would like to take some of the funding or even set up separate funding for this on a federal level when I get to Congress. We have, I think it's something like 12 to 20 beds available for teens and youth in crisis in Montgomery County. And the estimated need is 12,000. I think we tend to be reactive on every level of government and wait till there's a bigger problem, till kids are already going into foster care or already having problems in the criminal justice system. And I grew up in Philadelphia. This was my plight as a teen, where I was going to go into foster care until my uncle stepped in and took me for a while till my father could get appropriate housing. And I know what that's like growing up as a teenager, where you're trapped in a very difficult situation and you have nowhere to go. And these kids turn to drugs, they turn to crime. And I think there's a lot more that we could do for, our children and youth in Montgomery and Berks County. I mean, the need in Berks is just as big as it is in Montco. Those are obviously my primaries. I'm second, 100% Second Amendment, First Amendment. I my whole family knows how to shoot. We will always, my son is a firearms instructor. that is absolute with me. Second Amendment is absolute. Shall not be infringed. Our founding fathers got that right. It's very clear. So that police and any of our first responders need all the support they can have, both in from a mental health and just a benefits perspective.
Mhm.
My uncle and my cousins were both Philadelphia police officers. I feel very strongly about helping our law enforcement. They are out there putting their lives on the line for us every single day. And as far as funding and legislation from a congressional level, I will be a full supporter, not a fair weather supporter like my counterpart who saying, I think there was 2 bills that she voted on recently that had over 70% bipartisan support. That's not supporting our police. That's a safe bet that you can vote along with, where nobody's going to criticize you either way. I do support the America First agenda, obviously. And I do think that is the way, the absolute way to go. Having said that, I am also a very independent person, and I love our president and I support our president. But if there's things that come down the line that would need a vote and need tuning up, I am fully capable of saying, hey, wait a minute, we need to work on this one a little bit more. I would love to see legislation. I'm sure, like most people who aren't involved in politics, I would love to see a bill that's about the bill, that one thing that we're trying to vote on and pass, or
Without all the
anything
tag-ons,
sort of
yeah.
related to it, without all of these little tack-ons and add-ons to get these pet projects through. The amount of fraud in our government's ridiculous. I mean, we've seen this with what Nick Shirley's done, and in Minnesota, and even in Pennsylvania, they just went over the Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare issues that they've uncovered here. And the amount of waste and fraud is just astronomical. And that money comes out of our pockets.
Absolutely.
And I think if we had more people who stepped up, who weren't, now I'm not knocking lifelong politicians. There's people who love this, but I think it would be a nice balance to have more citizens step forward and run for office who become educated on the issues and really care about our communities. I don't care about lobbyists. I don't care about who's making money. I just want our neighborhood safe, and I want a great America for my children and grandchildren to grow up in.
Well, you touch on a few things that I want to just expound on.
Mhm.
So, term limits, quote unquote, but,
Mhm.
the way our government was founded, it was not for a lifetime politician to be there, honestly. It was for you to serve your public service and then go back to your business, whatever that may be. So I think that's an important distinction too, that you just made. But also, you commented on children. And one of the things that we know we have, especially here in Pennsylvania, we had it right in our own community where a girl was taken. Is sex trafficking and human trafficking with the porous border that we just dealt with. And I give the president a great deal of credit for closing that down. I think we all can. But, we've got so much child sex trafficking going on in this, and it right in our own communities. People don't even realize it. It's right under
Yes.
their own eyes. But this needs to be dealt with. And it seems to be, to me, that there are those who are either, afraid to even discuss it or to address it in a way, in a meaningful way, where we have legislation or there's some type of, official teeth that can be used to not only prosecute, but to kind of like the ICE idea, go out, find people and get them incarcerated. So what are your thoughts on that? I know you feel strongly about children.
It is, the sex trafficking is massive. And I mean, yes, it's actually huge in Berks, even more so than Montgomery County.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a Berks County Patriot meeting not that long ago, where all the speakers were involved in trying to weed out and help. But it is the amount of money in child sex trafficking or sex trafficking at all it outweighs everything. It outweighs Meta. It outweighs, oh my gosh, if you put together the profits of like most of the social media platforms, it is not even close to the amount of money that is made in this disgusting area. And I think Tim Tebow does a lot of great work, but I think the problem, we really need to be tougher on this on a criminal level.
Absolutely.
If people aren't afraid of even just a disgusting thought about clicking on a piece of film or something like that, then that deterrent just needs to be picked up, in my opinion. I mean, some of these, and I'm not, you really need to distinguish sometimes, there's our legal system is tough with, you can be deemed a sexual predator, if you were 19 years old and dated a 16-year. There's certain things from a legal standpoint that need to be adjusted. And I think specifically the child trafficking and this type of predatory legislation and laws need to be. I mean, I'm for the death penalty, honestly, in these particular cases.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of, and that's hard to say actually as a Christian, but I've delved into what we have going on right here, like you said, in our backyard, and it is beyond disturbing. There was a whole little clip I watched recently where the FBI had gone on and set up, I think maybe as a 14-year-old, and it took, they were running this thing to see how long it would take before this imaginary child was, approached in social media platforms, and it was under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And
they're out there.
It is, and there's so many. And I do think, Tim Tebow, like I said, is doing fantastic work with this. But when you look at the numbers, it is something that on a local level, we need to have zero tolerance. There need to be really strict, sentences in place for lesser offenses. And, these people that are caught trafficking children, I mean, first of all, if they're here illegally or even here on temporary visas or even legally here, they need to just, they need to be deported immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And those that live here and are our citizens that partake in this tragedy really need the fullest extent of the fist of the law in this case that can manage in those cases. But yeah, it's people aren't awake to that. They don't realize it's in our backyards. And, I think there was a school bus driver in Berks County that was convicted not that long ago for filming the children and then running them through an AI program and creating sexually explicit videos from an AI program for the children he was transporting. So we need to just be awake. And like I said, this was something that obviously brought me in. We need to be awake as parents and just as citizens and keep our eyes open for children that are withdrawn, any changes in behavior. I mean, it goes on right in our areas. And it's something that is a huge passion of mine to make sure that we do everything possible to stop it.
Well, and you commented a couple times about repercussions and responsibility that there should be for this type of action.
Mm-hmm.
We had several individuals come and speak to this particular topic at our meetings in the past, and to think that they're actually tattooed like cattle, so that they can be identified as an individual's property, is really a sick concept to begin with.
Yep.
We get all upset about slavery, and there's been slavery for thousands of years, but this is just another form of slavery that we just turn our heads about. So, you commented on the fact that you're a Christian, and I want to go into that a little bit briefly, but also understanding that as Christians, we are taught biblically that there are responsibilities for our actions. And sometimes those responsibilities have to be pretty harsh so that others are aware that if they do the same thing, they're going to have the same potential outcome. So, I do think that we need to be tougher on these individuals and, really demonstrate through them that this is not what we're going to tolerate. But, you and I have had conversations about your grandson, and I'd like to see if you can give us a little update, but I want to bring the audience up to speed on what's gone on with your grandson. And I do want you to know that the STN prayer team was identified, or your grandson was identified for their prayers. So, I'm sure you've got plenty coming, and, that's going to turn the tide. So maybe you can give the audience an update on your grandson, which is another tier of things that you've been dealing with.
So, yeah, my family, we are definitely, the Lord is putting us through a trial right now. And it's a time where you need your faith. And you need to believe that, Jesus Christ and, can save anyone. So while I was campaigning, I think it was maybe June 29th, I was out in Berks County. And I got a text from my son that he had to take my grandson to the emergency room. And what started out as Eli saying that he had a sore foot. He's 2, so we figured jumping off the sofa and, he hurt himself. Earlier that day, my son and daughter-in-law had taken him to the pediatrician, got a referral to take him to an orthopedic specialist, and made an appointment at our chiropractor for that Wednesday. And by 6:00 that night, Eli couldn't stand anymore.
Mm.
So my son took him to the ER, and which was followed by, by the time he got there, weakness on his left side, and he really couldn't use it very much by the time they had gotten to the ER up there. And the initial CT scan showed a mass on his brain, which was very large at that time. And it was a very overwhelming evening, obviously. And to make this as short as possible, because it seems like a lifetime has happened in the last few weeks, emergency transport to Children's Hospital, Philadelphia, which, praise the Lord that we live in a state so close that our entire family could help during this time and have a facility like CHOP in Philadelphia. When we got down there, Eli's tumor was discovered was much, much larger than anticipated. The size of a man's fist. So about 1/3 the capacity of his brain. And we have now been through 2 brain surgeries with Eli, and he has started chemotherapy. So we're working on getting a crowdfunding up, but obviously things happen very quickly. And my son has been the primary caregiver. He has not left his side, and he has been living in that hospital with him. The amount of faith and strength that our Lord has given him is remarkable, for as little sleep as he has to be able to be functioning during this time. And patience and love. It's been quite remarkable. So Eli is doing the best he can. And also right before his second brain surgery on July 12th, Eli's little brother was born in Philadelphia.
Oh, God bless him.
So my other grandson, Enoch, was born the morning of the 12th. And we got special permission to take Eli out of CHOP, to take him next door to Penn to meet his little brother before his second surgery, which was wonderful. My daughter-in-law is doing great. They're living at Ronald McDonald House. She has the baby there, and we do the best we can. So in between campaigning and work, I go down there, and there's, I'll stay overnight, or I'll allow her, go watch the other baby so she can go over. But Eli's got a long course of treatment ahead of him. And we are so grateful for prayers and strength and God, because I don't know how we would have made it this far without that strength and having that. I don't understand how anyone could not have that faith, how lonely they must feel during times like this in their lives. So, yes, Eli, God, he has an amazing gift from God. And when I get a chance where I can share these things, like literally a week before this has happened, his abuelo and abuela are pastors, and we have a little video of him playing the tambourine and singing his heart out, praising Jesus at church. And even now, when his abuela comes to visit, he's praising Jesus in Spanish because, my daughter-in-law is Dominican, so her first language is Spanish.
Sure.
So it is just in such a terrible, like really heart-wrenching time to have a small child who just truly has a light and a worship in him for our Lord. It just, it makes it bearable.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I can empathize. My brother, my first niece went through something very similar with a neuroblastoma that was actually discovered in her knee. She had knee pain.
Oh my gosh.
And so went through a lot of what you're talking about. And thank goodness for Ronald McDonald House, too, because they utilize their facilities quite a bit. So I'm going to ask everyone out there to pray for Eli and the entire family. And, we know that the rock, the foundation that's getting you through is part of what STN is all about. So we'll support you in any way we can. And please give us updates and we'll share those. And especially with the GoFundMe or whatever the page is that you guys develop, ultimately will help you there.
We're doing two. We might do a give, send, go. Like I said, my son, we're trying to navigate that and set up a trust. They have not been home since this started. So,
Sure.
You're trying to do things that you need to do in this situation where your main focus is just saving, your child or your grandchild, and giving them the support that they need for a really, really tough battle. So,
Absolutely.
I will keep you updated 100, and prayers are absolutely, we feel them. And, yes, thank you so much for that.
Well, I have to tell you, it's a blessing to have strong Christian individuals like you standing up and running for office. This is a critical time for us, everyone. You need to realize that. If you're of a believer or of a conservative base, you need to stand up as well. You need to engage. You need to be part of the process. This is a critical time for us. As we've said throughout this podcast, it's important for all of you that you understand that this upcoming election is an extremely critical election. We have individuals who have already been elected and are in office who don't have the same values and beliefs that this country, this republic was founded upon. And we need to be able to balance that, at least, if not get individuals in there who can get things through that are more aligned with your beliefs, my beliefs, and obviously with this fine lady's beliefs, who's running for Congress in the 4th Congressional District here in Pennsylvania, if I can get that out.
Well, I want to throw on the end here real quick too that that obviously very strongly pro-life, and I think that as anybody who is a person of faith, whether you're Christian, Catholic, I think that there's been a great disservice done over decades to our folks, minimizing what life means, and making it sound like it's a medical procedure or something that is just very blasé. And that's a societal problem that we've allowed to happen. And I think that starts with education and letting people know we, can't make somebody realize it. But I think bringing the horrors of abortion to the forefront when you're trying to teach people who are in situations who are going to make those decisions. I think it's important every day to talk to our young people and let them know that if something happens that's unexpected, that God has hands in things that we don't understand why. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's very important also to note.
You also have touched on the three core values that STN was founded on: our biblical foundation, our constitutional framework, and our educational keystone that really locks the other two together. Without the education, the other two falter. And, many of you have read the quote that we utilize. It's right behind me on our logo from Thomas Jefferson. So you've got to enlighten, engage, and help others to learn, because without that knowledge and that information, our republic is doomed. So I thank you for your time today, Aurora. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you've got a busy, busy schedule, and thank you for taking the time out for us. I'm going to ask everyone out there to make sure, if you're in that Congressional District 4 in Pennsylvania, to get the information that we're going to post about Aurora's campaign. We'll have her website, everything that she sends to us, we're going to post for you, so you can get right on there now and learn more and contribute, because that's part of this game, unfortunately.
Yes.
We need the dollars to be able to get people in. And Aurora, thank you. Would you like to make a comment to everybody about any of that and try to help them to understand how important this is?
So, first of all, I'm not a person that likes to ask for money, but if you're running for office, unfortunately, you need it. For me, it costs us $1,900 to buy 500 yard signs, just to let people know what those costs look like. And my opponent has an incredible amount of money. So we don't need to break the bank, but yes, even any donation that you can make is going to go towards literature, helping me outreach, helping me get more door knockers out to reach people who don't really vote that often, who may not even know that we have a election coming up because they only vote in the presidential. So anything helps. So if you could, please donate. So help me get my name out there and let's get Madeleine Dean out together.
There you go. Well, listen, everybody, share this video. Make sure that you inform others about what we've talked about today, the importance of getting involved and engaging. You all have a responsibility to do that in order to preserve what we believe in and what this republic was founded upon. So thank you again, Aurora. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you. We are there for you if you need anything, and we should be doing this again once you win the general election.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I fully intend on winning, but even if we don't, my youth network program and everything else that I'm working on, that's going to happen no matter what.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Well, everyone, thank you. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll look forward to bringing you some more information. We've got some upcoming information, as I said, from a county commissioner here locally in Montgomery County, but also from an individual who's doing a great deal of work on election integrity, and that'll be coming up as well. So have a great day, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the effort, and thank you for sharing our information. Take care and have a great day. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this STN podcast. I truly appreciate your viewership, and I appreciate your support. I'd especially like to thank those of you who have recently supported us through your gifts and donations. It's your support that keeps us thriving and moving forward with our mission. Our mission, as you know, is to live up to our three core values: our biblical foundation, our constitutional framework, and our educational keystone, which locks the other two together. I know that you enjoy these programs, and I know you're learning a great deal. Our goal is to give you educational information that is truthful and also actionable. We want you to be able to move away from this program today and be able to say, hey, I've got something I can contribute that will help others. Even if it's just sharing the podcast, that's helping someone else learn. So I want to thank you again for your contributions, your donations, and your support. If you'd like to contribute today, you can click on the QR code and join us in our mission to move the ball forward. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.